Hey guys, how's it going? Happy Friday. It's been a tough day. It's been a tough past month, but I was just reading the comments before I got on here, and it looks like some of you guys missed me and were waiting for me to come on. And trust me, I missed you guys too. So we're going to go through some of these topics tonight that aren't quite so happy, but I think we need to talk about them so that we're aware of them. And no, I get it. I'm not going to come up with a plan to save all of us, and neither are you, but collectively, it's time. All patriots need to unite. True Second Amendment supporters, people who want to keep this republic going as long as possible. We need to stick together because there's some things that have been happening actually for a long time. You could argue since 1934, just to be honest, but especially it's been heating up just in the last few weeks and then again in the last 24 hours. So I'm sure a lot of you saw my video this morning about the breaking news with ATF raiding the Polymer 80 company. And I reported it literally like the Wall Street Journal had put it out. I found out about it actually thanks to one of you great viewers. You're awesome, man, that told me about it. And I was like, whoa, really? Recorded the video at 6 a.m. and then it takes a while to process it, upload it, etc. But I got it out as soon as I could. And a lot of you have watched that video so far. And I've been thinking about it throughout the day. I'll pull it up here and just go over just a teeny bit. I'm not going to do a repeat of my video earlier, but maybe some of you are unaware right now. So basically we have Wall Street Journal reporting that, let me pull it right up here, that according to them, Ghost Gun Company raided by federal agents. Now that's a word they use. I'm just reading the title. Ghost gun, like whatever, right? Basically what we're talking about here is you have the ATF. They had given a determination letter a long time ago to the Polymer 80 company. And they have these little criterias and their rulemaking procedures, processes. Trust me, we'll get into all that later because I already know your question. Like, you guys are going to say, well, the ATF can't make law, or how can they make law? Well, they can't, but they kind of sort of can. And I'll talk about that in a little bit because that gets kind of complicated, but it's also a little bit fun to talk about. So they had given them an approval letter, a government permission slip, and said, you can make what we're going to call these so-called 80% receivers. Now, they really just call them 80% receivers because it was just a name. Like, you have to give it something, right? Literally, it's a black and white issue. You either have a chunk of aluminum or, in this case, polymer. And it's just a piece of plastic, right? It's not a gun. And you can continue to do machining processes or injection molding, molds, holes, whatever, in certain areas. And as long as you go right up until the definition of what the ATF, in conjunction with some statutes, say is a firearm, it's just not a firearm. So you could kind of say, well, it's about 80% of the way there. And that's where it gets its name. But instead of looking at it like that, we should really look at it the way it should be, the way it legally is. And it's either not a firearm or it is a firearm. And it's basically on the fundamental level, kind of black and white. It kind of starts and stops right there, right? Like, it's not a gun. You know what I'm saying? Then you do more things to it and it becomes a gun. Well, they have determined firearm would be the proper legalese term for gun, right? So they put an approval letter out and they told Polymer 80, as far as you have this piece of plastic formed, machined, molded, whatever, right? It's not a firearm. And they've been selling them without serial numbers because you don't have a serial number on your coffee mug because that's not a gun. You don't have a serial number on your baseball bat because that's not a firearm either, right? So the reason they don't have serial numbers is because they're just simply not firearms. And while the 1968 Gun Control Act required serial numbers to be on firearms, it didn't regulate anything other than firearms. So that's where we're at. Now, here's another interesting point. Why is the ATF even having regulation and jurisdiction over things that aren't firearms? Because they're the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. That's a whole nother topic. But somehow they've injected themselves into this whole arena, and they say they have the jurisdiction to decide if it's a firearm or not. So there you go. So what happened? Well, they raided them. They went in, And since I'm not subscribed, it's not going to let me read further, so I'm going to paraphrase for you guys. They went in there yesterday and said, we're here to seize things. And it looks like so far that they seized their records. So that would be, obviously, people who purchased them, the distributors, the wholesalers, the retailers, and probably, if I had to guess, this is all just me guessing, probably even if you bought one directly from their website, I would assume they probably have access or have already compiled your information right now. It said they took other evidence. They didn't specifically state what it was, but this has to do with their build kit. So what they were saying is this: you guys got approval with a letter from us. This is what the ATF is asserting here in their warrant application. They may or may not press charges. This is still a fluid situation, just happened. But they're saying that, all right, we were fine and we gave you an approval letter to just sell this, quote, 80% lower, which is not a firearm. You can sell it to whoever you want. You can ship it across state lines. It does not have to go to an FFL, just like when you're buying your little boy or girl's toy car from Amazon or wherever, hopefully from the 2A EDU affiliate link. So if you guys want to help the channel, I do have an affiliate link down in the description. It costs you nothing and it does help. But I digress. You don't need like an FFL for stuff that's not a gun. So they were sending these off to people without a background check, without a gun, and that's without any type of FFL. And that's just because it wasn't a firearm. Well, now what it appears by this newest news, the ATF has now decided is once you take all these other parts, because the receiver or the frame is what's considered the firearm, right? Well, we don't have a receiver or a frame here because it hasn't been finished enough to be considered that. That's the firearm. That's the serialized part. Everything else are just parts, which also do not require serial numbers, do not require FFLs, and do not require background checks. So let's just say we're talking about an 80% Glock, right? Your slide, your barrel, right? Your springs, your trigger, all your small parts, stuff like that. Those are not firearms. But what it appears the ATF's doing is saying by taking a box full of parts, which are not firearms and have never been considered firearms, and then taking a piece of polymer, whether it's a rifle or pistol, I haven't exactly decided which ones they're after yet. I believe this is concerning a pistol setup they have of some sorts, whether it's AR or otherwise. I think we're going to find out more, so I just don't want to sound like a know-it-all because it's still breaking. Anyhow, by taking a bunch of loose parts that are not firearms, putting them in a box with something else that might kind of sort of look like a receiver or a frame, but it's not. You add two things that are not together, and now they're saying it becomes a firearm. And on its face, it's literally just so ridiculous. And you're thinking to yourself, and so am I, like, how could that even possibly be? So if I have like salt and pepper sitting here, and I grab one pepper shaker, put it in a box, the other pepper shaker, put it in a box, seal it. Now I open it and I end up with salt. Well, unless you're a magician, or right? But as far as I can tell, that's literally what they're doing now. Now that sounds like it's just totally out of left field, and it is kind of out of left field, but not exactly. And while I completely disagree with what we know of their assertion right now, I'm actually not 100% surprised. So please do not mistake my words here. Doesn't mean I agree with it at all. I think all of this is unjust. It's all wrong. It's all tyrannical. And it's all unconstitutional. But that notwithstanding, I do understand why. See, the ATF, this goes down a long road, and I think it's time that I address that here, and then we'll get back into where it's become to be, where they have way more power than I believe most people would consent to, and more than what they were probably originally supposed to have. But here we are. But let's go back. We have a law called the APA, and that's what actually, in my opinion, truly starts this, truly gives them some teeth. And it basically says this: we have our elected representatives in the House, the lower chamber, right? And our upper chamber, the United States Senate. They make law, the president vetoes it and kicks it out or signs it, and then it becomes a statute, a law. Duh, we know how that works. Well, here's the problem. We've gotten so many laws on the books now that instead of just saying we have too many darn laws, let's like get rid of some of them because we don't need 22,000 firearms laws or whatever the number is. No. Once they get a little power, they never want to give it away. So you get to the point where Congress is like, we don't have time for all this. That's their claim anyways. We don't have time to read the bills. We don't possibly have time to interpret or oversee all the laws we're creating. We don't even have time to make all the laws that need made, right? So the APA was Congress delegating their authority, okay, saying now these three-letter agencies that ultimately work under the executive branch, right? Ultimately, you can follow them all up to the food chain, to the Attorney General, and then the Attorney General serves at the will and pleasure of the president. So they work directly in chain of command for the president, not the legislature. And that's the key difference here. And we set up a fragile separation of powers that needed to stay really separate for this republic to thrive, in my opinion. But a lot of that's gotten delegated away, where now we have a law that was enacted by the United States Congress many years ago that now says three-letter agencies can make rules. Okay. Well, they're making rules, but only Congress can make law, right? And it actually says that in the United States Constitution. It says Congress makes laws, and the executive branch is there to execute them, enforce them. And then, of course, the judicial, which was originally founded to be an extremely weak branch of government. If you look back, before Marbury v. Madison, it was actually a very weak branch that was just there to handle very small instances of disputes. Today, it's changed to where it's considered an equal branch of the government. But I digress. Back to where the ATF gets their power. How are they writing these, quote, laws, making these rulings, the interpretation? Well, the APA said they could make rules. But when they first did it, it wasn't certain, and people were debating the fact, do these have any teeth? Because the Constitution says boldly, Congress makes law, and if it ain't a law, it ain't a law. How can they do this? How can they not only enforce, because ATF, FBI, all of these are law enforcement agencies, but how can they create rules? And some people at a certain point said they couldn't. And that brings us to Perez v. Mortgage Bankers. And basically they said that this was a Supreme Court case. And when it was decided, it set precedents, case law. Look, I hate case law, but hey, it's something they go by. They usually use case law more than the law itself, unfortunately, in my opinion. They basically said, Perez v. Mortgage Bankers said that, look, if an agency, a government agency, this is alphabet soup, it could be ATF, any other one, this set precedents, case law for all of them, that actually, as long as they go through the proper rulemaking process, you guys have probably heard about this. There was a big one with bump stocks, other things. They had started it with M855. We call it green tip, 5.56 ammo. You guys know what I'm talking about. As long as they do proper rulemaking processes, that actually their rulings that they make do actually have full and effectual force of law. See how far we are away from when the lady at the steps, the first Congress said, Mr. Franklin, what do we have? A monarch or a republic? And he said, a republic if you can keep it. And how quickly, just me explaining this, like how the ATF can make law now with the stroke of a pen and yeah, we've gone a long way, in my opinion, from the original intent. But let me keep going further. So now we have the APA that says law enforcement can now promulgate rules. And now we have a Supreme Court case, Perez v. Mortgage Bankers, that says that, no, it actually does have the full force and effective law, meaning if you break this rule that they made, doesn't matter that the Constitution says Congress makes law, Congress delegated it to them, they make it, they can actually convene a grand jury on you. They can indict you. They can press charges, right? And if found guilty, you could serve prison time, fines, all these different things. Thanks for the super chat, Shots with Cole. I really appreciate it, man. And I know he has a giveaway over on his channel. So when you guys are done watching this, I'll give you a little wink and maybe you guys will get lucky. Thanks, man. Anyways, so we've got, they can make rules, APA, Perez v. Mortgage Bankers. Now they have full force and effective law. But what if the law, and we saw this in bump stocks, and I've talked about it on this channel before, they clearly defined what a machine gun was, like very crystal clear, right? In the National Firearms Act, 1934, as amended by the GCA of 1968. Very clear. We had great lawyers like Adam Kraut and many others, like literally like doing it in the legal proper way, putting compelling arguments up in the courts. It's like, no, it's a proven fact. The law is very clear. But through the Department of Justice, they were able to actually interpret the rulemaking over the written law that was passed by the duly elected Congress and signed by the president. Yes, that happened. And here's what allowed that to happen. Let's go to another Supreme Court case. And I'm not a lawyer, guys. This is all just for your entertainment. But I think me being not a lawyer, I might not use all the big speak over your head because I don't know how to speak Latin, right? Like lawyers talk over my head. This is just for me to have a friendly conversation. Fact check everything I'm saying. Not a lawyer. But I am talking about Supreme Court cases. So now we have the Chevron versus United States Department of Natural Resources. And in the end of that case, it created case law precedents that said when there's a conflict between one of these rules that were promulgated through a rulemaking process, through an alphabet soup, and that said one thing, but the set in stone bona fide law said another thing. We have a conflict now. What do we go by? The rule from the agency or the actual law? And unfortunately, very unfortunately, I know Kavanaugh's been a critic of this. Gorsuch has been a critic of this, but it doesn't seem like the Supreme Court's looking to save us right now, guys. They're against the Chevron deference. It actually says that the rule that was promulgated by the three-letter agency that's supposed to be interpreting a law, if it conflicts with it, the rule actually has more force and effect of law than the law itself. Yeah. Yes. And our original Constitution started being drafted in the 1780s, all the way up to the Bill of Rights, 1791. In my opinion, I guess I'm just not educated enough, right? Even though a third grader can understand the foundation of this country. And that's why it's so beautiful. Because we left a country of lords and ladies in England where you had to know how to, speak certain ways before you could even understand. And a lot of people say that's why we still use so much Latin in our legal system today. And I would happen to agree with those people. Very clearly, in the Constitution, Congress makes law. But when you take the APA, they now delegate. You take Perez v. Mortgage Banker, that gives it the force and effect of law. And now you have Chevron deference when in many cases makes the rule. The rule. That's just written by a ruler. Yours and mine's ruler, apparently. As upheld by the Supreme Court, the rule actually wins if it's in conflict with the statute itself. That's how we got to the point now. Where, yes, on a purist standpoint, and I am a purist constitutionalist, I think it's one of the most beautiful group of words that was ever written. The Declaration of Independence almost brings me to tears when I read it. Not because I'm sad, because it's so beautiful. The Constitution, to me, those are very, very clear. However, we've come to a point and society has recognized these things and allowed them to exist, that they've promulgated through case law, precedents upon precedents upon precedents. There's so much precedents they keep piling up, you don't even know where they started from. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they can lock you up and they can storm your business. They can shut your business down. They carry handcuffs. They can convene grand juries. They can put you in a cell and throw away the key and leave you there to either die or sit there of old age if you're strong enough to live it out. So at the end of the day, what's the difference? I don't know. But it is sad. And if you guys are frustrated to hear me saying this, nobody's more frustrated than me. I'm just trying to keep my composure to, have a stream, because once we get through this, I'm going to have fun with you guys. I always like to hang out, Thanks, Mateo, for the super sticker. And thank you for everything you do for the channel, man. I really appreciate it. America the Free with a super chat. Thank you. I appreciate it. He's sending me some love, and I need it right now. These are tough times in America. And for my business, I had 2 emergency service calls today. So it's been a fun day. So here's where we're at. There's laws that say, back to the Polymer 80 thing again, this is a firearm. You know it when you see it. And that's actually been used in Supreme Court cases, that you know it when you see it test. It's not that simple anymore. The ATF's now saying you can take one thing that's not a firearm, bundle 5, 10, 20 other things that are also not firearms. When you put them together, that's now a firearm. And here's why I'm not surprised. I just wanted to give you guys all that background because I don't really hear it talked about much on here, to be honest with you. There's something they call constructive intent. Will you find constructive intent in the Constitution? Of course not. The only thing the Constitution says about firearms is A well-regulated militia being necessary, not optional, not whatever, no. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people, you, and me, to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if you look at the founding of this country, all gun laws are unconstitutional, of course, because shall not be infringed only means one thing. And anybody that's an American, I don't know how they could read it otherwise. So you won't find it there, right? You won't find these definitions of constructive intent. You know where else you won't find it? You won't even find it in the National Firearms Act of 1934. You won't find it in the Gun Control Act of 1968 or as amended with the Firearms Owners Protection Act with the Poison Pill Hughes Amendment, ban machine guns from entering the registry. You won't even find constructive intent there either, actually. You know where you find it? You find it because this is something the ATF came up with one day. And they said, if you have too much of something near each other, and you could readily and easily convert, you could quickly, they've used different words for it, but the gist of it is this. Constructive intent means you might be planning on doing something wrong, and there's clues that would lead us that way. Like you have all the eggs ready to make an omelet. You haven't cracked them yet. You haven't even got off the skillet, but there is a dozen eggs in your fridge. You do have a gas range that works, right? You have a skillet sitting there. You got a little bit half and half. I would never make an omelet without a little half and half, guys. You have to have that. You've got your ham diced up and your vegetables sitting there, and they're like, you know what? You're now guilty of making an omelet. And you're like, no, I'm not. There's just stuff in my... Now, in 2 seconds flat, you could whip it together. An omelet has been made. And that's a layman's way to word what constructive intent means. And I'll give you guys another example before these so-called Polymer 80s, because they're just not firearms is what they are. There was a time where the ATF was holding that if you had a AR rifle carbine, Title I firearm, 26 inches or longer, 16-inch barrel. And you had that in your gun room, bedroom, wherever. In your closet. Who cares? But you had a 8-inch barrel sitting next to it. And you did not have a lower pistol that was designated for a pistol. They've actually tried to prosecute people on constructive intent because they said all you had in your possession was a stocked receiver. Granted, it had the 16-inch barrel on it. There was no problem with that because that's simply called a Title I firearm. But you had this 8-inch barrel. And since you had no pistol that you were in the process of building, you couldn't prove to us you were, right? Because a lot of this, you do have to prove your own innocence, unfortunately. They said there's no other reason you could have that 8-inch barrel sitting next to that stocked firearm. So therefore, we're going to prosecute you, or at least investigate you at the very least for constructive possession of a short-barreled rifle. It's true. It's true. They've been doing this kind of stuff for years. So now what they're saying is this. Yes, in and of itself, and I don't know this for a fact. I just know what they're doing because I've been around for a long time. So in my opinion, okay, what they're doing is they're saying, look, we don't really like 80% receivers, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. We don't really like them anyways. Well, of course they don't, because these people like to do whatever the heck they want, and if there's no resistance, then they'll keep perpetuating their own careers and moving up and up and up at the expense of yours and my liberty in most cases, unfortunately, right? So they've said, hold on a minute. It's one thing to have the 80% quote-unquote receiver. All right, that's just kind of there. You still need like 20-something, 30 parts to make it work, counting each little pin and spring. You guys get what I'm saying. It can't really do much. But now all of a sudden they're saying, in my opinion, now that it's in a box, they literally said in the article I read earlier that within mere minutes, you could go through with your jig and drill your holes, do your filing, sanding, whatever it is you do. I'm not giving you guys instructions on here. I don't know how to do it myself, okay? But you do your little thing that you do, and you put these parts on, and they're saying in just a couple minutes you could have this box of parts into a fully functional firearm. And the fact that I've seen them use this constructive possession to actually go after people before, I have no doubt, in my opinion, that's what they're doing now. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one thinking this, but you might be thinking to yourself at this point, so hold on a minute. We're now having to worry about pre-crime? You might be doing something? Yes, but it's actually not even that good. It's even worse than that because all these articles you read, they assume people are going to be committing crimes with these. Nyax with the super chat. Thank you very much. And I agree with what you're saying here. Patriots must stand together. This is how we will win. And that's why I was so happy to see all you guys in the chat tonight. I'm happy to see you right now. Seriously. Makes me feel like I'm not alone because it does feel like it's us versus them lately. But I know it's not. And I appreciate you guys. And I hope all you guys are really busy offering encouragement to each other in the comments right now. Seriously. So anyhow, they say, well, you can make a firearm readily. Well, actually, they say ghost gun, and they say there's all these felons that are building unserialized ghost guns. Yeah, and felons have been taking guns for years and filing the serial numbers off or just carrying them around with look, felons by nature. They're not all violent. They're not even all bad people, but they've obviously had a criminal aspect to them. Criminals usually don't follow laws, right? And good people apparently don't need laws. No, all criminals aren't bad people, and they're not even all dangerous. And there's a bunch of white-collar felons out there that are probably would be safer with a gun than a lot of people with no record, but we have a lot of draconian gun laws on the books. But with that said, even under our current laws, as draconian and unconstitutional they are, because all gun laws are unconstitutional, they have this thing where they're saying, well, only people that shouldn't own a firearm, that can't legally own one, they're the only person that's buying these 80% receivers and turning them into functioning firearms. And I completely and utterly, adamantly disagree. I was doing a service call at my friend's local business, and we were sitting there as I was doing some troubleshooting. I'm not going to say his name just because I respect people's privacy, but a good friend of ours, I said, you know what? He has an 80%er, and he's in the process of finishing it out himself. He's the last person, and I can say this. I know this man. He's one of my best friends, and he knows who he is. I think he's watching. He's the last person in the whole world. No offense to you guys, but this guy's the last person in the whole world that's ever going to hurt anybody. I mean, you mess with his family, yeah, but he's not going to do anything bad to anybody. He's making an 80%er, and we talked about this just a few weeks ago. Why? Because he doesn't trust the government. And that's the American way to not trust the government. And I encourage anybody to not ever trust anybody. I wouldn't trust any person on this whole earth 100%, but certainly not the government. He just doesn't want the government to know his business because he heard people like Beto O'Rourke get on TV and flagrantly yell out, yes, I'm going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. And that's what they said they're going to do. And I have every belief, as well as my friend, that that is indeed what they're going to try to do. As far as I know, again, this is all my opinion, most of the people that are building 80% firearms are the nicest, best, friendliest. Like, you have a flat tire, they'll help you change it. They give you the shirt off their own back. People, they just want to be left the heck alone. They want to protect their family. They remember what Ben Franklin said, that we have a republic if we can keep it, and they just want to keep it. They just want to work their job, okay? They just want to have some good family and friends in between. And at the end of the day, when they're put in the ground, they just want this country to be a little bit better for their kids. And they don't want the government meddling in how they protect themselves. And that's how anybody I know, that's their only intent and reason for making a non-registered firearm. Which, by the way, leads me to the next point I want to make, that there's so much misinformation about. State laws may vary. So I'm going to talk federal law. And in my state of Michigan, I can say for sure, hopefully all of your states, but whatever. No legal advice here, guys. Not a lawyer, just your friend hanging out with you. However, it is legal federally to make your own firearm. Whether you have something that's polymer or aluminum that's looks similar to it and you have to do things, or whether you literally just went out there, okay, and you had this, you can legally take this and make it into something. Like, this is not legal. There's never been a law prohibiting it, maybe state laws, but in most states, and according to federal law, you can do that. So it's not even illegal to be finishing these. So here's what I don't get. Maybe you guys can help me with this. I mean, I understand why, but I still don't get it. It's just so hard for me to reject the principles of this country. So no matter how much I understand it on paper, I just ain't ever going to get it, guys. And I hope you never get it either, because as soon as we get it and start agreeing with it, that's when we're even in worse trouble. than we currently are. So let's go through this one more time here and see. Maybe you guys are smarter than me. I'm going to look down in the comment and somebody's going to say something to sum this up much better than me. So here's your cue, all you guys that are, I love you all, way smarter than me, right? So you have this one piece. It's not a firearm. You have a bunch of random parts that's not a firearm. You put them in a box. All right. Then somebody, for their own personal use, they're not going to sell it. Their intent is not to make profit off of it. They're not looking to engage in the business because that's something totally different. They just want to do what I said earlier. Have a firearm to protect their life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, protect their beautiful wife and little girl at home and themselves, which they should. Everything's legal there. It's legal to have something that's not a firearm. It's legal to have a bunch of other parts that's not a firearm. You put them in a box, you take it home, put it together, turn it into a fully functional, whole 9 yards firearm. That's actually also perfectly legal to do. But somehow that's a problem now. According to the reports from this raid at Polymer 80, that's some kind of problem now. Now, that's what they're citing they have a problem with, and no doubt, I think it's pretty clear. They don't want you to do that. They don't want you to be able to make a firearm that they don't know about. Here's how I can prove it. Again, everything that I said is legal. Depends on your state laws, of course. Also, depends on if you're making these and trying to make them with the intention to make profit, then the law states you have to have an FFL. I don't know how to get one. You'll have to look that up on your own. But for personal use, etc., this is all totally legal, right? So I think there's two things afoot. A, they don't want us to be able to do it, right? Because back to that old saying, and I love it, that's why I like to say it so much, right? When the government fears the people, there is liberty. That's what we all want. But when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. So if they're so worried about what arms we have, what are they up to where they're going to try to infringe on our liberty so much that a peaceful society would even consider raising up against arms? Because I just want to be left alone, and so do all you guys, right? So if they're leaving us alone, if they don't kick a sleeping dog, it ain't going to bite them. What are they planning on doing to us? Where they're like, okay, we want to do this. But when we do, the American people, pitchforks and torches and Polymer 80 Glocks and AR-15s. Look, I'm here streaming, having fun with you guys. I'm not like out there looking for an ATF agent to mess with or whatever. And I'm sure you aren't either. What are they planning on doing to us? I don't know. But I think it's very pertinent to ask that question right now, right? So they raided it because they don't want people to be able to do it. But then they actually seized the records, which shows you what they're really after. They want to know. So the whole reason why 90-something percent, 99%, whatever, yeah, I'm sure a gangbanger bought one here and there to do dirty deeds with, whatever. That's totally separate. Like, I'm not saying whatever. I don't like gangbangers. I don't know them, but whatever, right? 99% are just people like my friend that I was talking about earlier that's literally the nicest guy you've ever known, even nicer than you. And he just wants to be private, right? That's what the vast majority, if not virtually everybody, is. They seize the records because they want to know who has them now. I did a video. Geez, it seems like 20 years ago because we've had this. They call it 55 things. They call it the Kung Flu. They call it so many things I can't remember. But the last 8 months, so much is so upside down. It feels like 10 years ago. But I bet you it was a year ago I did a video. ATF is changing the Form 4473 to put all the firearms, serial number, information on the front. For a channel that's teeny small like mine, I actually had tons of views on that video. Like, I don't know how many it has now. Maybe 70,000, right? So a lot of people watch that video. I said in that video, and I'm going to stand by it because I'm still going to keep saying it because it's my opinion, that they put all those serial numbers on the front of the 4473 so they can go by, because there's a law that says when they call for a NICS check, they have to destroy the information. They're not allowed to make a federal gun registry. There's also a law that says that, but you know they want it more than anything. And let's be honest, most of you already believe they have it anyways. But when they go into these gun shops, they can take with software, right? And they can, now instead of having to flip through all these documents, it's on the cover, so they can just line them all up, take a picture. It's called OCR technology. It takes a picture, but that picture actually can get databased, and they can database line by line. And that new 4473 that's just gone into effect where you have to use it now, you guys may have seen it transitioning into your local gun shops over the last few months, but it was no more than a month or two-ish ago that it became mandatory. All that information's on the front. Now, I had probably one or two anti-gunners come in and say, your video is bullcrap. It's just like, whatever, it's YouTube. There's a troll everywhere. But you'd be surprised. I had hundreds and hundreds of gun owners saying, dude, you're freaking paranoid. You're paranoid. There's no way the ATF's trying to possibly gather all this data, blah, blah, blah. If they wanted it, they could already have it. No, it's actually federally illegal for them to have it. But when they're doing audits, there's a little exception, and they can spread them out, and they can take photographs of them. And I still believe to this day, and now we're getting more and more stuff to support this, they changed that 4473 form to make it easier for them to catalog and database all of the serialized firearms you had. But this is America, and we're always one step up, and the people are always smarter than the jackboots, and we always will be. And we're not going to become a communist country, guys. We're only talking about this so we can win. We have to keep fighting, and we have to win. But we're smarter than them. So ingenuity, capitalism comes into play. And they said, well, hold on a minute. There's definitions of what a firearm is. We'll just simply sell stuff to people that ain't a firearm. ATF, it's got nothing to do with you because you don't have jurisdiction over coffee mugs. So you don't have jurisdiction over this because it's not even a firearm. So we'll do that. People can legally make them at home. There's no law prohibiting it federally. Your state laws may vary. Not a lawyer. Look up your state laws, guys, right? And that was a way that people could. And if I have to hear the word loophole one more time from the gun community, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do anything because it's your freedom of speech, but I'm going to shake my head. This is not a loophole to get around serializing your gun and putting it on a form that made it easier for them to turn into a registry because A, the registry is illegal, right? B, if you have good intent, and you're a good, safe person with your firearm, you're not infringing on other people's rights. And we retain our rights that were not given to us by any government, by any ATF agent. Gosh, as much as I'd love to have them in power now, even great people like Alexander Hamilton and George Washington, literally, if we could have them right now, we'd be saved. But here's the thing. They didn't even give us our rights. Your rights in the Declaration of Independence acknowledged by the Founding Fathers, and that's why it's so beautiful. They said these are natural rights, and these rights are given to you by God. And I cherish religious freedom. God could mean many things to you, but just here's the essence. These rights predated. They preceded any government. They preceded George Washington, as great as he was. We always have these. So you have your rights unless or until you infringe on someone else's rights. And 99% of the gun owners out there, probably 99.999 to be accurate, aren't going to hurt anybody today. And they won't hurt anyone tomorrow. Just minding their own business, but saying, don't tread on me, right? Second Amendment, like I said, says shall not be infringed. And those are the only laws and rights that we need. So the ATF has literally perverted this to the point now where they're like, well, hold on a minute. This guy's going to build a firearm and not have it serialized, right? And it has to be serialized because we have to have a register and we have to know where they're all at. Dude, that's like what we started the Revolutionary War over. It wasn't over the tea, which really, really pissed the colonists off, right? They love their tea. I love my tea, actually. And if they tried to tax my tea, I'd be really mad. No, they were coming for their munition stores, for their ammunition batteries. And then there was the shot that was heard around the world, and it was Lexington and Concord. People have been willing to fight for their guns this whole time. But back to that video again. All these people are like, dude, you're just paranoid, blah, blah, blah. If you ain't got nothing to hide, why would you care what the ATF has? You're going to sit and complain about the ATF till they make it even harder on us. No, it's actually the opposite. I didn't make up this saying, but I believe it's true. It's the opposite. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. And that's what we want. And that's what's enshrined in our founding document, the Declaration. All men are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Amongst these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So liberty is what I want, and I think you do too. That's what we have when they're actually afraid of us, though, because when we're afraid of them, we have tyranny. So I'm already seeing it with this too. I've already covered it. I've already covered so far tonight why and how, by all these convoluted, weird things that society has somehow accepted over the years, how the ATF is kind of, sort of, in my opinion, unconstitutionally allowed to make law. Yeah. Yeah. But it's amazing how many people still come into the comments, because I've had quite a few comments on my video from this morning saying, dude, you know, it's just a loophole. Loophole for what? No, exercising my God-given rights to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and choosing a tool to defend that with, that's not a loophole. That's just being an American. But you've got gun owners. They're like, I'm pro 2A. But, however, let's face it, you should be serializing and registering your firearms. If you ain't got nothing to hide, register your gun, they'll tell you. I'm like, no thanks, because then when you start to register, right, registration is, first of all, always led to confiscation, and the more hoops you have to jump through, the more it infringes. The more it makes it where poor people can't own firearms, where people that are downtrodden because this, whatever it is, this China flu has them out of a job and they can't afford to buy a permit, can't afford to pay the gun shop for a background check. Because it doesn't say in the Bill of Rights that these rights were endowed by your creator, asterisk, but you still have to pay a government fee or permit before you can exercise them. It doesn't say that at all. And I don't hate any of these people. They're fine. Like I said, I'm not going to do anything to them. I'm not even going to kick them out. It's just like they leave all these comments. And I just wanted to offer this encouragement to you guys. There's lots of gun owners out there, and that's awesome. But you can't necessarily correlate the gun owning community with the 2A community. And I'm finding all these people that are sticking up for the ATF right now that are of the gun community claiming that they're 2A, saying, well, hold on a minute. You shouldn't be able to own a ghost gun. Come on, man. I'm like, what do you mean you shouldn't be able to? As soon as I find out the government wants to know everything I have, and they want to know all the serial numbers, and they want to know every last thing, that makes me really not want them to know what I have. Not because I have anything to hide. It's just because I have constitutionally protected rights that were given to me by God that include unreasonable search and seizure. We do have the right to privacy. So, again, you guys can decide, and you guys can totally be disagreeing with me right now, and that's fine. But if you guys are getting pushback, even in these videos on YouTube, against the so-called gun community in 2A, I'm just venting to you guys, letting you know that it's not just you. Like, I get it too. I totally get it. All right, let's see what you guys are saying here. America the Free with a super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, I'm with Niox, and that was a good comment he left, so I don't blame you. We will die before they take this country. We can never be a communist country, guys. Despotism. Communism leads to mass starvation, mass murder. There's never been a communist society that works. And even these all socialist countries. Here's my opinion on that. Socialism light, they call it. No, look, socialism, communism, all these isms, they're all derivatives of the same thing. The only reason why some of these socialist countries appear to be working over in Europe and other places is because the land of the free, the home of the brave, they call us Uncle Sugar. The United States is subsidizing them so much with unfair trade agreements and giving them so much money. They are appearing to do okay in these teeny little socialist countries where there's 3 million people in the whole country. And the United States is, again, giving them / whatever to them to double their GDP. Then it almost looks like it's a little bit okay. That's the good kind of socialism, when the United States and other first world allies are dumping money into them. So don't forget that either. Communism's bad. When you look at Lenin and Stalin and Mao, you look at the Third Reich and all of the gun control that happened before that, and the registrations, where in the Third Reich, where they not only registered firearms, but they registered people. And first they confiscated the firearms. They had to do that first. And then they confiscated people. Yeah, they did. They confiscated people. When they went into Poland, most people gave up their guns and went, I don't want to say peacefully, but it was pretty easy because they were unarmed. Off to demise, right? Except for in the Warsaw Ghetto, because you know what? They were already criminals for the most part. They didn't have much to lose. They said, we're not going to give up our guns. Who cares if it's against the law? We're the crooks and the thieves and the undesirables anyways. I actually mean that as a compliment in this case. They didn't give up their guns, and when Hitler went to just walk right through and just take them out in 5 minutes, they actually shot back. Now, there was a whole nother resistance. You history buffs know more about it than me. It involved them coming and going from the woods, and I get all that. But just to be brief with it, they actually kept their guns because they didn't care about the law. And they fought back. Now, could have he put in, squadrons of troops and marched right through them anyways? Yes, but here was the problem. Right? You had Russia hitting them on the other side. You had the Allied forces coming in. They were already stretched thin, and they were made with a choice. Do we sit there and pull troops off of the front lines against Russia, or we're fighting tooth and nail with each other? No, you know what? These guys are giving up a little bit too much resistance. Let's just move on. We could take them, but it ain't worth our while. And they went to the lower hanging fruit and kept on confiscating people. And those criminals that kept their guns, a lot of their lives were spared. I'm summarizing the story. There's a lot more detail to it if you guys are interested, but it just goes to show. Now, those people were considered by their peers to be like, oh, look at that criminal. They're not following the master's dictate of turning in guns and, registering them. Registration leads to confiscation, guys. A lot of those people's lives were spared because they didn't follow the law and they didn't follow unjust orders. Because here's what's crazy. They didn't have a Second Amendment then. And I don't think any of these countries ever will, but they still had the same rights we have. We were just lucky enough. We were lucky enough that we had such good people that founded this country that actually put it on paper. Because I believe those people in Warsaw, Poland, my personal beliefs is ever since Jesus Christ died for my sins that I've had these rights and saving grace. But I'm not going to push that on you. You guys all have something you believe in that gave you your rights. But these pre-existed any country. All these people have always had these rights. The only difference is until the United States, and it's been eroded away, has been this comprehensive negative Bill of Rights, where it doesn't say the federal government gives you the right to keep and bear arms. No, they acknowledge it already exists. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's what makes us different than most countries in most places. And it appears that every time we have something like this, whether it's with the braces, I don't know if he's still here. Excellent story by John Crump. I think he truly did investigative journalism. I've seen his sources. He sent me the whole Freedom of Information Act dump that he got. I read all of it. Okay. He did good investigative journalism and brought all that to light just a week and a half ago or something crazy. Now this with the Polymer 80 company. Yeah. So I don't fall for the whole, it's just a loophole. Loophole for what? No. These rights are inherent. We have these rights. It's not a loophole because you try to exercise. It's just called, I'm an American. The second says, shall not be infringed. And even all these draconian laws that are unconstitutional, but we've come to accept. By the way, none of those prohibit these so-called 80%ers that are really just plastic or aluminum. And also there's no federal law that prohibits us from manufacturing firearms. Asterisks for personal use. You're not going to be engaged in the business for profit. So yeah. There is no law being broken. Now, if somebody is prohibited from owning a firearm, well, yeah, if they finish it into a firearm, they're breaking the law. But do you really think all of the we'll just call them violent thugs on the streets, just the old stereotypical thing, do you think they're actually filling out proper 4473s anyways? At least in the movies, and I know what happens in real life, duh. Has anyone ever heard of a filed off serial number gun? These people have been doing their thing forever, and they always will. And these new promulgations, Not that they're banning all 80%ers right now, but I'm telling you, it's not looking good. These are just going to make it harder on hardworking people that just want to be left alone. Maybe they just want to be private. And here's the other thing. How many of you guys on the weekend like to go out to your hot rod or your Harley motorcycle? Look at Chuck R. Nice bike, Chuck, and thanks for the super chat. He says some call it a sling blade, some a Kaiser blade. There you go. You can call it many things. Look, when it comes to this flu, I don't know what to call it. Like, I'm not a doctor. It's called so many things. You guys know what I'm saying, right? But how many of you like to go out there and you're like, the old Harley's only got like 800 miles on the oil change, but I want to get away from the old lady a little bit. Shh. For all the old ladies, I didn't mean that. I want to get away from the better half. I want to go out to the garage and you just find yourself changing the oil when it doesn't need it, or you're going to put like chrome valve stem things on your. A lot of us like to tinker. So that's also a great hobby that many people are enjoying. They tinker. They get out their little jig. They do a little this and that. They fit the parts together, a little oil here, a little sand. This is no different than when we were little kids with our little 20-inch bicycle. And then big kids like Chuck R. with his nice looking ride there. This is just things that like we do. Mainly a guy thing, but there's chicks out there doing it too. Trust me. I don't want to leave you ladies out of it. A lot of ladies are out in the garage, and a lot of ladies are building their own firearms today completely lawfully. So I wouldn't give in to the peer pressure when you hear ghost gun and only undesirables want to make their own firearms. I don't think so. And the rights of the masses, the good people, should not be undermined because there's one or two bad apples. You don't leave a bad apple in the bushel to ruin the whole bunch. You throw it out so the whole bunch can still stay good. So if there's somebody doing something wrong, I assure you, 100%, there's plenty of firearms laws on the books to lock those people up. But the crazy part is they don't even enforce most of the, quote, gun crimes when people actually do bad things and might deserve to get in trouble. A lot of them are out on the street, 3, 4, 5 murders deep on their rap sheet. But they want to mess with the guy that's the nicest person you've ever met, that wants to tinker in his garage and maybe go to the range for fun, or more importantly, protect his family and his country. So that's kind of where I'm at with the why and why I fundamentally disagree with all these things. And I've already talked at length about the braces. The same thing with that all over again. It's not a loophole. It's just like we have rights, right? And we're a little bit smarter than these people who are constantly trying to undermine them. Now, here's another topic, and I have to be very careful how I talk about this. Not because I'm afraid of YouTube. I don't know YouTube, but they'll end my video if I talk about the election too much. But I'm going to say this, and there's big air quotes. The ATF and the Associated Press believe that Joe Biden is the president-elect, and they do believe he will be inaugurated. They believe it. Now, you guys understand the difference between they and me, right? Look, I've got to play games with this algorithm for now until we figure it out. Bear with me because we want to hang out on here for a little bit longer still. I don't know how much longer, but I want to finish the stream with you guys. They believe that Joe Biden will be completely and utterly, legally winning, inaugurated on the 20th. The ATF believes that. They do. And while I'll admit that Trump let the ATF run rogue during his tenure, Trump is still the president, by the way, no matter what, until the 20th at noon. Trump has been and still is letting the ATF run rogue. Can he stop it or not? I'll let you guys hash that out in the comments. I don't know. There's two sides to it. Half of you are going to say Trump's just as anti-gun as Biden. I know a lot of you guys are going to say it because I read all your comments as much as I can. Some of you are going to say that. Some are going to say, hold on a minute. Trump tried his best. The swamp was just too darn deep. He just couldn't drain it. He's only one man. He needed 8 years. I get it. That's both sides of the argument. I have my opinion. I've talked about it at length. Maybe I will later or another time. But the ATF believes Biden is the president-elect. The Harris-Biden administration, we call it. They had a meeting with the ATF just a couple weeks ago, going over their priorities that when they get inaugurated, because that's what these agencies believe. They believe that Biden won. That they had a couple top priorities with guns, gun safety measures, they'll call them sometimes. Lately, they don't even beat around the bush. They just call it gun control. And they said that they're after braces. Our friend John Crump wrote the breaking news, investigative journalism. Thank you, John. Article exposing a lot of stuff there that the ATF's up to. Okay. And after what they called so-called ghost guns / 80% receivers. Now, why do you think? Yes, I get it. Right this very second, the ATF still works. Like I explained earlier in my little history lesson of like how a bill used to become a law, but not anymore after the ADA, Perez v. Mortgage Bankers, and Chevron versus Department of Natural Resources. Yeah, the dual systems of laws that we have here, right? So how is it, though, that this agency that, yes, right now, technically, legally, still works directly for Trump, but if they believe that their new boss is coming in the next month, it's called transition. It's called a lame duck presidency, and the elect actually has more power than the outgoing person that's in their lame duck term, right? So they're thinking like, who cares what Trump says? We're not going to have to listen to him in a few short weeks or a month. That's what they believe. I'm not saying that I believe. They believe that. So this is our new boss, they're saying. So we're going to listen to him. And they did. There's reports on it that he sat down and talked to them and gave his priorities for what he wanted. And he said he was after these specific items. And then all of a sudden the ATF comes in and raids it. Now, people have brought up another point, which is also very valid. They don't just do a sting overnight. They've had this plan for months and months. Well, yeah, the deep state's been planning to take our rights away forever, and they probably always will until things can get torn down and rebuilt again, hopefully someday. You know, these bureaucracies are too thick. Anyhow, they always do this. There was a bunch of stuff they had planned where they were going to get by with it only if Hillary won, and then they lost, and they had to back off on a lot of it. Not on all of it, but on a lot of it. So, yeah, of course they've been planning this for months because they believed even then that Joe Biden would be elected president, and they believe now that he's been fairly elected as president. That's what they believe. And they're like, this is our new boss. So, of course, when he goes in there and says, these are my priorities, I don't know this. This is all my opinion. In my opinion, this would make sense. Hey, guys, boss man spoke. He wants these gone. How many pending investigations do you have on these? This, and this. Okay, this is the best one. Go raid them tomorrow. Let's get all the roaches scampering all over the ground so we can start stomping on them when they come out. Because that's how they look at us, I believe. So, yeah, I think that is true. Of course, the ATF technically works for Trump right now. Yes, but they believe Biden is their new boss. The Harris-Biden administration has promised that if they're elected, the ATF believes they have won the election. So does the Associated Press. And so does Susan Wiki. They all believe that. They said that they would enact swift gun control, and if Congress wouldn't act to do comprehensive. Do you remember that comprehensive Biden-Harris gun control plan? I talked about it at length before the election, or whatever it was that we had. And then they said if we can't get Congress to enact and basically try to ban or tax the heck out of almost everything, we will do it with executive orders. And I have another article here that hopefully they'll let me actually show so you guys can see what I'm talking about, that actually discusses just that being one of their biggest top priorities. Our executive orders law. If you've just joined in, go back to the beginning. It starts with the APA, Perez v. Mortgage Bankers, Chevron deference, and through a bunch of convolution of what I believe was the founding fathers' intent, yeah, somehow they do make laws, somehow or another. Somehow the ATF actually makes laws that are more powerful than the law itself, if you ask the Supreme Court and other cases. America the Free, thanks for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. Gun-free zones is the worst crime against America, and I agree with you. I call them criminal empowerment zones because that's what I believe they really are. It's where the good guy doesn't have a chance. The person that's like, I don't want a paperwork felony to make me a prohibited person. So they leave their gun at home. But the person that's hell-bent to create chaos, destruction, and has no conscience or moral compass to stop them from killing as many people as possible, they could care less about a gun law. And they never do. And a sign has never protected anybody. And it never will. because a sign is not going to stop somebody. It can't physically stop them, and it's certainly not going to change their moral compass. At least I don't think so. I've never seen it to be the case yet. Rudy Finney, how you doing, man? Another Michigan guy in the house. He says, wonder how much longer this Cold War is going to continue with the courts hell-bent on disenfranchising and simply overlooking. I can't read that right now, Rudy. People should be wanting to defend ATF, IRS, not local law enforcement, just in my opinion. Well, it's gotten to the point we're here on YouTube. Susan, wiki. If I read those words you said on there, I could get this video taken down. We're in a tough place. Joe Biden said, if you elect me, it'll be a dark winter. I do know he said that. Defund and not defend. Okay, I was getting ready to put words in your mouth because I know you better than that. Defund, yes. He wants to defund these organizations, not defend them. I read that and I'm like, come on, man. Corn Pop was a bad dude, but nah, I know Rudy too well. People should be wanting to defund ATF, IRS, not local law enforcement. Just my opinion. That's what he meant to say, guys. Thank you for the 2 super chats, Rudy. Let me see who's in here. Somebody said, what's wrong with a High Point? I don't know, man. They're not my favorite gun because here's why. They're a decent size to them. And for that size, I'd rather have double stack, not single stack. So the G2C, for not costing much more, double stack, holds almost twice as many rounds. With all that said, I own a High Point C9 and a JHP, which is the 45. They've actually worked quite well for me. I just don't like the limited mag capacity for how big it is. That's why they're not my favorite. If you're a High Point guy, I do not look down on you. Heck yeah, man. Don't be ashamed of your High Point at all. Literally, they're fine guns. Just not my style. Delta Blues, what's happening, man? Keep speaking out. Love your channel. I will not comply. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And you guys don't have to super chat me, too. For me to appreciate you, ask my moderator. We talk about these streams the next day. I literally go through before I go to bed and I read all of your comments. So if you guys are just leaving me words of encouragement, look, there's like 500 more of you than there is me right now. I can't read them all, but you're still offering me encouragement, even if I don't read it, just to let you guys know that. John Crump, what's going on, man? I hope you were here earlier. I don't even know if it's to the point where it's this versus that. There's a lot of trolls on the internet. I heard some people say they say a little bit of this about John and that about John with his articles for the braces. Look, I'm doing an opinion show. Sometimes John is on other people's shows, right? Hank Strange's channel, for example. He's a frequent guest and other good channels. But John was doing good old-fashioned investigative journalism. He got more information. He wrote the article. Here's what he did. He got a dump. And if I'm wrong, John, please chime in. He got a data dump that found out internal memos, Freedom of Information Act, letters. They're called letters, right, from the ATF. He went through the ATF stating this, blah, blah, blah. Allegedly, there's 2 sides of the story. The other party hasn't come out yet. When they did, right in the middle of me streaming about Mr. Crump's story, not the middle, 3/4 of the way through it, someone said, hey, go hit refresh on the article. I did. Crump had already updated it and said now the other party, right, SB Tactical, has come out with their side of the story. So now I'm providing that to you. I don't know, man. I was in high school journalism. That was in the last century. I'm not joking, guys. The 1900s. I graduated school in the 1990s, guys. I'm a little old. Journalism's this. You don't predetermine who's right or wrong. You actually let the facts lead you. It's actually not much different than trying a court case. If you're truly doing investigative journalism, you're like, I want to get to the bottom of this. The breadcrumbs are the facts, and you just keep going until you get to the end. And I don't know, man. I thought you did a good job on that article. And I didn't really understand a few of the comments here and there. But at the same time, I don't need to understand everything that's on the internet because there's a lot of whatever's on here that I don't have time for. Corn Pops ate my snowflakes. Rudy Finney. What I'm telling you guys is we have one of the premier investigative firearms journalists in the chat right now. So, he's going to kill me for this. If you have any questions, ask him. He's a lot smarter on this than I am. And I was like, dang it, where do you live? Freedom of Information Act. Where's 2AE to you? Everyone's going to be like, at John Crump, at John. Nah, he's actually knows a lot about this stuff, guys, for real. You're not going to find me, John, even though I just told everyone to bombard you with questions. Now, he knows a lot about this. Rudy Finney, Corn Pops ate my cornflakes. Oh, man. What's happening, Gary Weisner? How you doing, man? Another ATF. Interesting. Ooh. Well, I'll be looking for your article. If it's been today, I haven't even had time to come up with fresh air, but yeah. You must be talking about Corn Pops, Tyler. He ran with a bunch of bad boys. I know he did. I'm going to get to this article in a minute, guys. I just want to hang out with you for 2 minutes. If you don't mind, can I do that? Of course I can. You guys are cool. I'll hang out with you for a minute if I want. But they're talking about, just so you guys can look forward to it. In a few minutes here, we're going to go over. On day one, in their opinion, remember, they think he won, Biden administration's top priorities, which are going to include gun control, and it's going to be by fiat, it's going to be by executive action, and it's going to be swift, and it's going to be draconian. And you should all be so scared right now that you don't even bother to fight back. But I would encourage that you don't get scared. I would encourage that you still hold your head high and remember you're an American and your rights go over the head of Joe Biden and Donald Trump and even George Washington, quite frankly. Rockford Ordnance, what's happening, dude? How you doing, man? Start mobilizing your friends, neighbors, and families. We are only strong as a group. Call it a community group. Call it a militia. Strengthen numbers. Well, yeah, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Thanks for the super chat, Rockford. I appreciate it, man. And I thought I just saw a really special friend in here. Where is she? Where is she? I'm going to get a huge smile on my face. Michelle LeDuc, how are you doing? I hope you're doing good. I mean, I know life's been really, really bad to you, and I'm so sorry, but I hope you're doing good. You have no idea, like, how happy I am to see you in here right now. So I hope you're good. If you're not, I probably can't make it any better, but send me a message, and I'll do what I can if you need anything. Let me know if I can do something for you, Michelle. I'm really happy to see you here, though. I really am. I think what they're going to do, and this article actually leads to this, the one I'm going to read from in a second. John saying he doesn't think buyers have anything to fear. I think they're going to try to take down the gun industry. This is just my guess. Look, I was around in 94, guys. Bought my first gun in SKS. If you want to know why I like those guns so much, it's all I could afford. And I bought my first one in 94, very shortly before. They called it the AWB, the assault weapons ban, and it lasted 10 years. And we could kind of sort of get like half-baked versions of guns that weren't as cool as we really wanted and all of that. But they've said we had too many loopholes, and that's their words, not ours. And this next one, if they get it through, they said, we've learned from it. No more loopholes. So, but then they've said recently here, we actually don't even need the Senate to do anything, they've said. They said, we'll just do it all by executive action. And you know, the government, unfortunately, pulls the puppet strings on all these corporations because there's licenses. You have to have a business license. You have to have, zoning. The EPA could come into a gun company and say, there's this little minnow, and it's swimming in this ditch a little bit too close to Glock in Smyrna, Georgia. So now you have to tear your building down because I might be stretching it, but ask some of the farmers about this little minnow. Ask California why they could be irrigated beyond belief, but half of it's still a desert because of this little minnow. Even beyond the ATF, they can go through and they can use all of these alphabet soup letter agencies. They can make it almost impossible, if not outright impossible, for businesses to function. Send me a message, Michelle. I'm so glad to see you here. For anyone that's, of a praying person, and if you don't pray, if you just send out your vibes or whatever you do, I'm sure Michelle would really appreciate it, considering how she picked up her husband's remains today. And we love you, Michelle. Stay strong. I'm not too far of a drive. Literally, get a hold of me if you need anything. Like, no joke. Let me know what you need, okay? These alphabet soup agencies, they can run these businesses so amok. Then the IRS will get into them. And then they'll say, well, you're violating this. You're not paying that. Yeah. Interpretations upon interpretations upon. Yeah. It just keeps going and going and going. Okay? It's literally nuts. And I think that's what they're going after. In fact, they're actually pretty much proclaiming it. They're going to go after the firearms industry. Luis Rodriguez, is there seriously only 34 likes with 493 watching? Maybe he hasn't hit refresh, but if you guys forgot to give me a like, it's totally free. And also, while my Patreon links are down in the description, and I thank all of my Patreon supporters, I actually don't have the date yet. But to give you guys a heads up, I'm going to do a special stream for you guys soon, because I often don't shout you guys out in here because I don't see them pop up. Haven't forgotten about you guys. And then just my Amazon link helps me a lot, guys. You just click on it, shop like you normally would through Amazon. Very small percentage goes to the channel. And that's how I buy the stuff that you actually see on here. So I appreciate it. Or just give me a thumbs up at the very least. See, I'm not that hard to please. Reptile guys with the super chat. Thank you. He says, mad at courts, but today was pretty amazing. I picked up a TX22 for $240, and I managed to get 1,000 small pistol primers and some cheap ammo. 2,000 SG primers. Now, I'll tell you what, dude, that TX22 is pretty nice. And I'm going to do a video very soon. It's right here on my Forge Tech holster for the TX22, which is also pretty awesome. What do you guys think about your Forge Tech holsters, by the way? He's literally just my friend. Like, he doesn't pay me to say this, doesn't pay me to talk about his holsters, but what a great small business in Michigan that I really like to support. I know a lot of you guys have Forge Tech holsters. I can't touch it because of, hi, Susan. Susan Wiki says, I can't touch, but it's just right over there. But don't worry, I have a very special Taurus video planned for you guys. And my TX22 happens to be in its Forge Tech holster right over there. Heck yeah. Oh, 300 likes. Oh, you guys are awesome. I appreciate it. I don't think he was lying. I think what happens is if you're in your app and you don't hit refresh, but thanks for reminding me, dude. I don't know. Some of these guys that hang out in here, they're the best people, but they get a little stingy with those thumbs up sometimes. They're a little stingy, which I get it, you know. I get it. Look at all these good people flooding you with love, Michelle LeDuc. I hope it helps a little bit. There she is. There's another good one. Jane Locke, how you doing? Osama Obama used the EPA to close the last lead smelting operation, and he did. He did. Thanks for reminding us of that, Jane. And it seems that they want to do quite a bit more than that. All right, let's look at here. Do you guys want to know about... let's go to the executive orders. Or we can talk about Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, executive... I know. There's no way I can make this topic fun, guys. I'm trying. Look, Jane Locke's the life of the party. Jane will tell all the fun jokes down here. In the meantime, let's talk about what Biden's up to. And then we'll get on to Michael Bloomberg. Not to mention Susan's policies. And this is 2020, isn't it? All right, let me see if I can get this up on the screen. Is that up there? Gun control first for Biden, executive orders. Yeah, this looks like a lot of fun. As reported by Paul Bedard, Joe Biden plans to move quickly against guns, adding the issue to his list of first executive orders, according to his top policy aide. First executive orders. Steph Feldman, the national policy director of Biden's presidential campaign, included the Democrats' gun plan and a list of initial executive actions set to be unleashed after Inauguration Day. Speaking in a Zoom briefing hosted by Georgetown University Institute of Politics and Public Services, she said that Biden is planning to, quote, make big, bold changes through executive action, not just on policing and climate, like we talked about previously, but in healthcare and education on gun violence on a range of issues. She added that there's really a lot you can do through guidance and executive action. Well, yeah, the ATF is trying to destroy whole industries. Seems like almost every day lately. It is expected that Biden will use the executive orders, especially if the Democrats don't win both Georgia Senate seats. Even with those, however, it would be a split chamber, making it difficult for him to push through liberal elements of his agenda, including gun control. And his gun control agenda is very, very liberal. It's draconian and it's very long. I don't have time to even get into all of it. But I'll tell you this. You own your G2C. It's a very popular gun of people that watch this channel. Firearm, $200 tax stamp because it can accept a high-capacity mag because it holds 12, which is more than 10. The magazine itself, which is 12 rounds. The second magazine, which is 12 rounds. $600 in tax stamps, according to his agenda that he promised he'd put through if you were to elect the Harris-Biden administration. $600 tax stamp for your G2C, and while it's a great gun, and I love mine, probably the reason why half of you bought one is because they were a couple $100. And you couldn't afford an $800 gun at that time, but now your $200 gun costs $800. And the gentleman that talked about his high point earlier, same thing would apply to you for the firearm, especially if you bought one of those Red Ball. I mean, to the letter of what their plan says, you're like, but wait, 280, you're wrong. It's issued with less than 10-round magazines, and it is, but that's not actually what their plan says. Their plan says if it can accept a magazine over 10 rounds, and they do make them that they accept, and there's barely any firearms out there that can't accept. So you could find yourself paying tax on your high point firearm, 45, 9, 40, 380, whatever it would be. And if you had the G3C, that's $800 in taxes because it comes with 3 high-capacity assault clips, assault clipazines. And they use those kinds of weird words, but once they finally write out the bills, they have the smart lawyers, and they know what they're talking about when it really gets down to banning it. They're stupid, but they're cunning. You know what I mean? They're kind of smart in a stupid way, but they know. They know what they're talking about this time around. I've noticed they've cleaned up a lot of their verbiage lately in a scary way. So they said the mention of guns in his initial executive actions is already sparking concern in the industry, which is readying an aggressive lobbying campaign. I'm going to be pretty busy, said one Top Gun lobbyist. During the campaign, Biden won the endorsement of former candidate Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, you remember him, who famously promised to grab everyone's AR-15, and he did. While he calls his plan one aimed at ending gun violence, most of Biden's ideas amount to limiting what people can buy or have. So there you go. They call it gun violence, but really it comes down to limiting what you can buy or what you can have. Yeah, that's called your property that you lawfully own. For example, he wants to end the sale of AR-15 style firearms, the most popular in the nation, regulate those that people already have, and limit the size of the magazines those guns use. And he's saying that he doesn't even need, like, it would be nice if he could get the 2 Senate seats in Georgia, but even if he does get them or doesn't, that doesn't matter. These are called executive actions. And they're usually actually much more swift. And in some cases, when there's a conflict between the executive action or the rulemaking promulgated through the rulemaking process, right? Perez v. Mortgage Bankers, furthered by the Chevron deference that the Supreme Court is still using as precedents. Yes, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Alito, others, Clarence Thomas have said they don't like it. But as of right now, they're still using that as case law. And the Chevron deference says, if the statute says this, and then the rule that was made by the 3-letter agency says that, the rule from the three-letter agency actually supersedes and holds more weight than the law itself. If there's any ambiguity in the law at all, well, if you look at bump stocks, the law was like so darn specific on what a machine gun was, but the court cases are not done yet. You need to be donating to groups like the Gun Owners of America, Firearms Policy Foundation, because they are still fighting the good fight. I'm not saying it's over yet, but as of right now, they're still saying, no, they can make these rules. Who cares if it's contrary to what the actual law states? We're just going to let them do it. So be careful of these executive actions. It's good to have hope. It's good not to fear your government, okay? That's all awesome. I'm not trying to contradict anything I've said earlier, but be careful. Don't let yourself get so naive. Don't just sit back, right, and say, ATF doesn't make law. They're 100% null and void. I don't have to listen to anything they have to say. Unfortunately, it just ain't so nowadays. You know? Don't agree with none of it. That's what I said to start this stream. I'll say it again for those of you just joining me. It's all unconstitutional. Our rights come from our creator, not even George Washington, but even the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, Jefferson, Madison, and others, many others. They made a Bill of Rights that was simply to acknowledge rights we already had, but we've come so far from that, see? We've come so far from that to the point where at the end of the day, you can cry shall not be infringed, and that's a very noble cry to make, and we need to use that as our battle cry, but people say it all the time. They get in front of the old judge, and the judge says, all right, you're facing 20 years. What have you to say for yourself? And you say, Your Honor, my client said shall not be infringed, and they say, Ksh, off with his head, put him away. I mean, sometimes that works, but unfortunately, it's become much more convoluted than that. Yeah. What's up, Christopher Bishop? How you doing, man? It's become a lot more convoluted than that. Tennessee Sniper, how you doing? Saying hi to some of you guys in here. Daniel De Leon, Haji Ortiz, John Voorhees, what's up? Evie 3 Dale, how's it going? Mateo again, how you doing? 64 Samsky. We've got Michael Moran, what's happening? Yeah. Fill the courtrooms up, right? There is a way. If everybody at once didn't comply, they couldn't arrest everybody. But where does it start? Who wants to be the Paul Revere? Who wants to be the first one? Heck, some people, and you find yourself trying to be Paul Revere, and in the gun comments on YouTube, you could find yourself being called Benedict Arnold. It's actually true. You guys know what I'm talking about, that leave comments on people's videos, right? Robert Halbert, what's happening? Jonathan Bush. GOA is greater than the NRA. You know, you guys are free people, do what you want, but I'll tell you what, from my local group, I buy these from them whenever I see them at a, like a little rights rally. I buy these. You know, it's a donation. You buy the sticker for more than what they spent to make it. And so I donate, buy a stack of stickers, and I give these out. So, yeah. Yeah, I definitely like the Gun Owners of America. And I don't look at these guys as competitors, really. I really like, a few of them. I like the Firearms Policy Foundation. They've said a couple things I wasn't 100%, but you can't love everything everyone always says. But I generally think they're doing a lot. And there's many other good groups. Get me off on a tangent on that. I could go for a while. Your local state groups. Hopefully you guys are aware of who your local state groups are. Because I said earlier, some of you can't even build firearms already in your states because they've become draconian enough. And I feel bad for you guys, but hopefully you guys can get some encouragement. Get together. I think it was Rockford Ordinance said, from a group, a community, militia. Militias are very proper. That's actually enshrined in our founding documents. It's a very proper legal thing to form. Amber, how's it going? She said, so basically, make sure we can't fire as many rounds as law enforcement or military. And I think that's a great comment that you left. And unfortunately, I agree with you. That is what they want. They call it disparity of force. Because here's the thing, Amber. I could tell you, Amber, I am going to tell you, you must do this right now. Woman, get in the kitchen and make me some dinner, I'd tell her. She's like, what? You chauvinistic pig? You can't make me. You're like 100 miles away. And she'd be right. And I hope she has a good sense of humor. But if all of a sudden I'm like, but I have an Apache helicopter that's ready to go with a couple Gatling guns, and I can be there in 10 seconds, and I have Gatling guns, she's going to be like, did you say ham sandwich or turkey sandwich, sir? Yeah. So they don't want us to be able to fight back. When there's disparity of force, they believe they can tell you to do whatever they want. John Voorhees is talking about the Buckeye Firearms Association. So I'm going to assume that's in Ohio. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to guess that could be in Ohio. So, yeah. If you're there, you might want to look into them or any other. GW Apparel and Gear. How you doing, buddy? How's it going, man? I like your shirts, by the way. I'm going to wear the other one in the video soon. It's right over there, actually. How's business going? Good, I hope. You getting some customers? Make sure you check him out over on his Facebook page. They're called GW Apparel and Gear. Seem like nice people. You guys are funny. Okay, she said LOL. All right, she said I purposely had to say something that sounded all condescending because I'm trying to sound like law enforcement, Amber. Like, I'm tough. I'm not good at acting tough, but sometimes I pull it off. Denny's Plant-Based Journey. How you doing, man? If you do not have the ability to defend yourself, then you are an easy target for a criminal or agency. Definitely agree with you, sir. Couldn't agree more. Blue Girl, North Carolina. Now, hold on a minute. I think I know you. You look familiar. Did you change your name? Or are you Mrs. Sharon's twin sister? Are you the better half or Paul? I think I know her. See, you guys mess with me sometimes. Hold on a minute. Who is it? You guys will mess with me. But I think I know her. What do you think, Guero M? How you doing, buddy? Is she messing with us here? Now, Blue Girl NC is a fine name, but why do you guys have to change your names and mess? Ugh. Ooh, EV3 Dales bringing up candy cigarettes. Let's see where he's going with this. It went from banning candy cigarettes, right, to arresting hippies for nude swimming at public lakes. And then it went to going after your Poly 80. Ooh. I can kind of see I think banning the candy cigarettes did start half of this stuff. I see where he's coming from. What do you guys think? How's it going, Louisiana? Doug Lomax. I'm up in Michigan. We're a world apart, man, but we got to all stick together. We have to. Because I kind of wish I was down there right now. Is your governor a little better than Gretchen? I hope so. I know who you are, but you're messing with me. Jay's Pete's. Alexander, how you doing, man? You know what? That's your opinion. I can't really actually voice my opinion on that too much right now. Go over to my other video, okay? What's happening, Rick? How you doing, man? He was the guest last week. Look, guys, there's another channel. It's called Patriot EDU. Now, if you only like guns and you hate politics, then don't go there. Or you can go there. It's more of my political channel, right? And I did a whole thing talking about there's new YouTube rules. Then I went through the whole video of what you're not allowed to say. You're not allowed to say it. It's not good. We got a Youper in the house. What's happening, man? For those of you not from Michigan, it's like, Michigan, and then up here is the UP. They're both Michigan, but it's almost like another state in a way. Like it's not, but it's like a whole different world, right? It's pretty cool. Some people are new to the channel in the chat. I've quoted Trump on everything he said many times a long time ago. So, You probably think you're arguing with me, but you're actually not. Trump said, take the guns first, then due process. There you go. That's what Trump said. He did say that. I wasn't happy when he said it. Is Biden way worse on guns than Trump? Yeah, duh. He said, if you elect me, I'll appoint Beto O'Rourke as my gun czar. Look it up. It's on YouTube. On stage. Beto O'Rourke said, I'm going to take your AR-15 and your AK-47. It's true. Neither of them are as pro-gun as me. Are you kidding me right now? I'm not running for president. Even if I did, I'd never win. Rick Nieper would not take your guns first, then due process. He also wouldn't try to take your guns like Biden. Rick's not running for president either, and he doesn't have enough money to get elected. And a lot of you guys are more pro-gun than Trump. I get it, but unfortunately, none of you will ever be president. Neither will I. And it does suck. It does suck. I get so sick and tired of having to vote for the lesser of two evils when it comes to guns, because there's so many great things that even a lot of the Republicans will do. You know, make America great again. I was on board with that, and I still am. Right? Trying to get even a little bit closer to a fair trade deal with China. Well, yeah. Was Trump as good on guns? Was he as Second Amendment as me? No, he wasn't. But back to that again. I'm not running for president. Neither are any of you guys. And that's just where it sucks. And I don't know. I'm not saying it is what it is. Like, I don't care. It's just like it is what it is. Like, I can't do anything about it. Like, do you guys want to like form a pack and put me up there for president? Do you think I can win? I promise you there'll be none. My Second Amendment policy would be the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's it. I haven't seen anyone run for office like that. So, but no, I'm being sarcastic. I'm not going to be able to run for president. I mean, that's just kind of obvious. All right, let's look over here. Speaking of people that did run for president, let's go over this real quick. Then I'll hang out with you guys for a minute and get off of here. Hold on, a super chat came through. Red, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. They say, I appreciate the streams you do. Wow, we need to stop assuming Trump will save us and be proactive to stand up for our rights and our president. We all need to organize and call out corruption. And I agree. Look, I bet you $1 George Washington was a better president than Trump. Probably. Like George Washington, like he crossed the Delaware. By the way, during a bigger, more deadly pandemic than what we've ever dreamed of having right now. Like, yeah, that dude was pretty great. But he didn't even give us our rights. And we can't even rely on him or James Madison or Ben Franklin. We can't rely on anybody for our rights because actually our rights weren't given to us by any people, but there's sure evil people every day trying to take them away. And it's ours to defend. Ben Franklin did not say, sir, do we have a monarch or a republic? We have a republic and we will always have one. He said, no, we have a republic if you can keep it. Right? And freedom is not inherited. It's not passed on, right? Freedom is only one generation from going extinct because you're not just born with it. Just because your parents were patriotic doesn't make you a patriot. And just because Red's a patriot doesn't make her children patriots. I think we should start our children off on the right foot. Give them every tool they need to succeed, but they'll have to decide for themselves. And we all have to decide for ourselves right now. I don't care how old or young you are. As long as you have breath left in your body, you can do something. You can do something. Doesn't matter. People say, are we going to have a civil war? I don't want to have one, and I have no idea right now. But even if we did, everybody would have a role. Everybody could try to save their country. It doesn't matter if you're old, decrepit, whatever. You might be decrepit, but you're the smartest one ever and can tell all those stupid, idiotic young bucks that could run 4.5-minute miles. You could tell them what direction to run in. You guys see what I'm saying? It is up to all of us. And we can never, ever think that any president, including Trump or even George Washington or Abe Lincoln themselves, could ever save this country. In fact, in the Federalist Papers, they said if men were angels, we wouldn't even need a government. Do you guys remember reading that? But men are not angels. And that's why they formed this government that's supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people. And the government was supposed to be instituted amongst men. And it was only supposed to be there to defend our natural, God-given rights, which amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But they knew that men were not angels. And they said as soon as it became contrary to those ends, and as soon as people had suffered long enough under despotism, because people would sadly endure, they would endure bad times and bad things as long as it was still tolerable. But as soon as people could no longer tolerate it anymore, it was their duty. It was their duty to rebel and to form a new government. And I heavily paraphrased it, but that's what our founding document says. So, yeah. It never said we're going to put in this great president and he'll save you. And I understand a president that you really like can offer you a lot of encouragement. But they can't save you. And just like a president that might offer you a lot of discouragement, it might make you angry. And it's okay to be angry, actually. Now, is it okay just to be ruthlessly violent for no reason? No, don't conflate the two. But it's okay to be angry. You should be angry when people are trying to take your rights away. But just like no president can save your rights, no president can single-handedly take them away from you either, unless you allow it. And that's where I still get some encouragement. And I hope some of you guys have some encouragement somewhere along those lines of thinking. So let's look over here at Michael Bloomberg, because he did run for president. And no matter how many billions he had, which he has many billions of dollars, he still couldn't quite do it. All right, so we've got, let's make sure I'm synced in. I'm not an expert at this software. Hold on, give me 1 second here, guys. All right, I liked your comment, Rod. I'm just moving it down so we can see here for 1 second. Bloomberg's gun control group calls for a raft of executive actions from Biden. So they're letting him know, hey, we're here. We're we the people. Because look, even though we don't disagree with these people, they are people too, and they have a voice, and they're not afraid to have their voice heard. That's why I wanted to bring this up. Everytown for Gun Safety, the gun control organization backed by former Mayor Michael R. Bloomberg, New York, called on the Biden administration on Thursday to swiftly enact executive orders that would regulate the tracking of homemade firearms. Now, why is this story coming out like literally hours before the other story that I talked about earlier this morning, and we started off talking about now with the Polymer 80 company? I don't know. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. I'm sure it is. I'm sure Beto O'Rourke has your best interest at heart. But I'll continue to read here. That would regulate the tracking of homemade firearms, require background checks for virtually all gun sales. That's called universal background checks. If you want to lend your shotgun to your nephew to hunt, you could both find yourself felons. That's what that means. Require background checks for virtually all gun sales and mandate dealers notify the FBI when they complete gun sales before completing a background check. That's interesting in and of itself. Notify the FBI when they complete a sale before completing a background check. Now, this is just totally my opinion. I could guess all day, but to me that sounds something like, hold on a minute. We're ready to check his background, but we're going to notify you first so you guys can add whatever you have to in there to deny the sale if you want. My opinion only. That's what this show is. But like what? I don't know. There must be something more logical than that, because what I just guessed is a little bit evil. Okay. Notify the FBI when they complete a gun sale before completing the background check. Whatever. I'm going to be retarded if I try to analyze this any further, but it doesn't sound good. Mr. Bloomberg's group has for years been the largest player in gun control politics, outspending the gun rights powerhouse, the National Rifle Association, in both the 2018 and 2020 elections. It's funny, all these anti-gunner articles, they only mention the NRA. They've never heard of all the other ones. It's kind of funny, but I digress. John Feinblatt, Everytown's president worked closely with President-elect, see, according to them, he's President-elect, Joseph R. Biden Jr., when Mr. Biden, while vice president, was deputized to address gun violence after the 2012 shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. And I thought the ammo shortages were bad then. And I thought that guns had gone up in price and were hard to get then. Wow. This whatever it is, this plague from China, it's going to be like 10 times worse on the ammo shortage than that. Keep in mind, we're still dealing with the ammo shortage from all that while we have the, according to these people, presumptive guns are, I'm going to take your guns. And the presumptive elect that said, if you pass us, and even if you guys can't pass laws in the Senate, we'll do it by executive action. We want 50 cents a round ammunition tax and ban online sales of ammo. And this ammo shortage is not going away in 2020, guys. And I wish it was. I don't think it's going to go away in 2021 either at this point. Might get a little better, but I'm starting to say probably not. But back to normal? Nah, I don't think so. It could be a long time if we're very lucky. And I want to emphasize the word very, very lucky if it could ever get back to what it once was, because all it takes is a couple executive fiats to go through. Either the tax, or them somehow banning sales of ammunition online, or banning importation of ammo from either all countries, which would be totally devastating, or even if they pick just Russia or Serbia or any one country, devastating. They could ban some kind of component and say, well, hold on a minute. We've now found that brass has an adverse. Remember that little itty bitty minnow I was telling you guys about earlier? It's this little itty bitty minnow. It swims upstream. It makes it where half of California has to be a drought. Can't have brass casings anymore. Oh, by the way, you can't have polymer either because those get stuck in the dorsal fin of some type of whale. Like, I'm serious. You guys think I'm joking. I'm trying to make it a little funny, but I'm actually serious. So Sandy Hook, huge ammo shortage. It's worse now by far than it was even then. And it says, but the Obama administration waited months before a Senate vote to put into effect universal background checks failed. Much of the rest of President Barack Obama's gun control agenda fell by the wayside. But Mr. Feinblatt said gun safety politics has shifted since Mr. Biden was vice president. Saying it always gets worse, doesn't it? The further you scroll down, close your eyes, boys and girls. I'm going to scroll down. You don't want to look. This is an entirely different environment where people know that gun safety is a public health crisis, said Mr. Feinblatt. Said this week during an interview, Everytown's suite of proposed executive actions leans heavily on bolstering the federal regulations of gun transactions. But like the Obama administration proposals, any executive actions that Mr. Biden takes are likely to face steep opposition and legal challenges from gun rights activists. And I hope they are very, very steep opposition and many challenges. I hope so. So-called ghost guns purchased in parts and later assembled by their owners are not tracked by federal law enforcement agencies. Everytown proposes Mr. Biden's BATFE reclassify ghost guns as firearms, requiring them to carry serial numbers and be traced like other guns, essentially eliminating their appeal as untraceable weapons. Which also means that's eliminating your right to privacy and your right to not just be under the jackboot of the man and of the federal government. And no matter what party you're in, who wants to be underneath a really big boot? Like, no matter who's wearing it. I think we could all at least agree on that. The group is also requesting that the agency tighten its definition of what constitutes a firearms dealer who is required to comply with federal background checks. President Trump and previous administrations have left it to sellers to determine for themselves if they are full-time dealers, leaving untold thousands of guns to be sold at gun shows and online without federal checks. The Everytown proposal would have the agency set the limit at 5 guns sold per year to be required to conduct background checks before sales. So, of course, they're saying they don't want to let you to determine yourself who you are and what your intent is. How could you do that? This reminds me of the ministry of truth and many other things. But, sir, I didn't have any intent. I just sold 10 guns because I lost my job due to Gretchen Whitmer shutting down the state and making it illegal to cut grass. And now my daughter needs braces, so I had to sell 10 guns to make sure my daughter can feel self-conscious at school and have a nice smile. No, shut up, you're dumb, plebe. We didn't say that was okay. We have determined you're now a gun dealer if you need to sell more than 5 guns. But the governor shut down my state and I don't have... Shut up, you're dumb. It's what it feels like to me. And I feel more and more of that with these agencies now and in the future coming. Every town is also asking the Justice Department to require gun dealers to notify the government before a gun is delivered to a buyer with a background check, when a background check has yet to be completed. So letting the government know before you're even doing something. Geez, what could go wrong with that? Currently, guns can be transferred if a federal background check is not completed within 3 business days. The group is also asking the Biden administration to create a gun violence task force to put in effect gun control measures across federal departments. And that's where I said that they're going to try to tie the EPA in. They'll try to add like the NOAA in, right? And you're like, well, hold on a minute. That's like the weather and like the sea. Trust me, they'll somehow figure it out. I mean, look how much ammo the post office buys every year and the Department of Education buys. And I think you guys get the point, right? I don't know. It's pretty depressing, but I'm going to hang out a few more minutes now. If you guys don't mind, I think we've covered a lot of substance tonight. If it's all right with you guys, I just kind of want to read the comments and hang out with you for a little bit because, yeah, I basically just read how they're bragging that they're going to just use every strong arm of the law of the government to try to take as much as they can. Is that what you guys heard them say? And they're in pretty good with, according to the Associated Press, the presumptive Biden-Harris administration. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull it up over here. This chat's lagging behind. I like the one where I can pin it up on here. Up North says, I don't mind. Cool. Up North says I can hang out with you guys for a minute. I'm like, I'm going to hang out with you guys if you don't mind. But even if you do mind, I'm going to hang out with you anyways because if I have to look at that picture of Michael Bloomberg much longer, I don't know. Now, Mrs. 2AEDU, I'd look at her all day long. Michael Bloomberg, not so much. Oh, we're having a 240 versus a 249. 249 SAW, 240 Bravo. So I'm guessing Mitchell Martell is more of a 7.62 NATO guy. I'm guessing so. I mean, that's what the gun he likes is chambered in. Some of you guys that are old 60 gunners, you'll probably go towards the 240 Bravo. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. I don't know. Are you losing your mind again, Gary Wiseman? Are you losing stuff, man? Come on, man. Come on, man. Where am I? Where am I? This is my wife. This is my daughter. This is my wife. This is my daughter. Hey, a lot of people are losing their mind lately. I'm Joe Biden. I'm running for the United States Senate. I get it, dude. We're all losing our mind. But Corn Pop was a bad dude. Every town can go pound sand, says Christopher Bishop. I would agree with that. Actually. Ooh. Daniel DeLeon. I hope not. Hey. I don't know. Ask Randy Weaver about them. Randy Weaver has a story to tell. A sad story, but he has a story to tell that should offer encouragement. What to look out for anyways. Yeah, hijabs for all. Yeah. But Gretchen said we can't hang out. I can't hang out with you guys. Dang it. I can't hang out with 2 or more households. So if you can't hang out with 2 or more, that means what? 1? Here's a loophole. I have such a big house. All 300 people watching right now all live in the same house, Gretchen, you know? We all live in the same house. We can hang out. Just don't tell Gretchen if you guys want to move away from home, because then we won't be able to hang out anymore. Oh, Gretchen, she's a real beauty. Now, when we say beauty, trust me, there's 2 separate types of beauties. She's that one special type. She's going to take away Christmas. She's going to take away Christmas, and Beto is going to take away our guns. I don't think so. I don't think so. What do you think, Bastard? PKM and MG3. PKM right now. Tomorrow, I might say MG3. Tonight, I'm in a PKM mood. Oh, man, I would love to have a real PKM. I mean, I don't even have like a clone of one, but I'd like to just have a real deal. That would be a lot of fun. What's happening, Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy? How you doing? Who's in here that I missed? Great live stream, my real fake name. How you doing, man? Nation in distress. You've been on this for a while. I mean, I don't know. Time flies when you're having fun, and I do have fun in these streams, guys, but you've been coming in the streams for a while, and you've had that flag upside down for quite a while. So it's not just me that's been worried, apparently. You out of here, Denny's plant-based journey? Good night, man. Take it easy. I hope you're doing well, sir. Zach the Ripper, what's happening? I lost count of the amount of times. I just have to shake my head since all this crap started, and I can't help it, guys. I try not to be dramatic, but you see me. I go over this stuff in these streams, and I'm just sitting there going, I don't think so. Kathleen Music Lover. There she is. How you doing, bud? She's my old friend on here, too. She says SCOTUS has proven they are useless. Not even going to broach the topic tonight. There's not enough time, but let's just say I'm not happy with them right now. My friend texted me not too long before the stream. We were texting, and she said, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "About what?" I covered some news this morning. I had a couple emergency service calls. I'm like, "No, I haven't." And I just knew better. I didn't even want to ask. I'm like, "What?" The Supreme Court of the United States will not hear. They're not interested. A lot of people aren't real happy with the Supreme Court right this minute. Kathleen's one of them, it appears. I have a lot of opinions on it, but I don't want to be on here for 3 hours, so we will talk. We'll talk about the Supreme Court later, but not happy with the Supreme Court. There he is. Just as I'm getting ready to get off of here, the outlaw come in. The Texas outlaw, Michael Syons, and he's fighting the good fight over on his channel, and I do appreciate what you do, man. You have a different way of doing videos than I do. I mean, we're not too much different. I guess we're almost the same, but we're just different channels, and I do find inspiration in your videos, and I appreciate it. Parental discretion advised, you know, but great channel. You know what? You guys are leaving some great comments that I quite frankly can't repeat on here. I'm not happy, but here's the thing. You know, the older I get, I don't know. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. Once you're down to only a couple ounces of blood left, it's too late to fight back. So I get that side of the story. I don't know where the threshold is. But at the same time, I don't like to just immediately cut off my nose to spite my face. Part of me just wants to say election, 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 and all this crap. And who cares if they ban me, which I do want to make that stand. But I also really just like hanging out with you guys. And this is where there's a large community of people. And there's lots of really bad people on YouTube, but there's lots of really good ones. And I've hung out with a lot of you tonight. And some of the other channels that are specifically for gun streaming actually don't have streams. So there you go. I think you guys know what I'm saying. When it comes to like taking my guns, that's it. There's no compromise there. But I guess I'm going to have to not talk about certain things on here. But I can still raise a little heck in the meantime, because if I go over to some of these other places where I can say whatever I want, there'll be 6 people watching, and that's fine. Like, I'm not a numbers guy at all. I don't care how many people watch in one sense, but yet I love all the encouragements you guys are giving each other and how many people are here, because we're going to need each other really soon, and we need each other right now. So, yeah. I can't read some of your comments. Been strictly warned against it. I have not lost hope yet, Michael. I have not. And this is what I like about you. I've not lost hope. I'm keeping faith. I'm not happy with the Supreme Court tonight, though, and I'm sure you're not either. But I appreciate it. Like I said, you've been offering me encouragement. Smoke AB says, when the president gives you a lifelong job and defends their good name, and they turn their back on him. I know. They call it the deep state, and some of the people in government say, if you even knew how deep it was. I heard a senator the other day saying, Senator Kennedy in Louisiana, whoever was in Louisiana, shout out to you guys. I don't know the man personally. He seems like one of the better ones. I actually like Senator Kennedy of Louisiana, and he said that. He said, man, I knew there was a deep swamp in Washington. I knew there was, and I come to try to clean it up as much as I could. He said, but boy, was I shocked. Boy, his southern accent's good. I'm not going to try to imitate it, but his folksy way he talks, he's cool as heck. I like the way he talks. Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. And he's like, when I got in Washington and how deep it was, he's like, wow. And then he had like some wisecrack saying for it, but you could just see the look on his face. He said it was probably like infinitely deeper than he could have ever even imagined. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good night, Brian Henny. How you doing, man? Sorry I didn't see you earlier. And that's an encouraging message, Red, and I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that. I know I do. We are the goodness inherent in the American resolve. Bless all of you, and thank you for your resistance. Hope is never lost. Thank you for that encouraging comment. If it encourages even one person just a little bit, it was worth typing. I can assure you that. And if not, we'll have Susan give you your money back. Now, you're talking about former President Kennedy killed by the swamp. Yes, I'm talking about the current sitting Senator Kennedy, but you probably knew that. Just a couple different Kennedys out there. Doug Lomax, how you doing? He says, thanks for the super chat, man. He says, I agree with the Texas outlaw. Glad to be a neighbor to him. Lake Charles, Louisiana, strong. So you're actually right down there by Senator Kennedy, Lake Charles. I used to work with a guy from Lake Charles area, actually. I have. I never been down there, I should say, but I'm familiar. I've heard a lot of stories about that area. You're down there around like Legally Armed America. I believe he's in your town, or if not, right next to it, right? Somebody left a comment I liked. Well, I like all your comments. That's why it's making it tough that I'm trying to find. The Aviator, how's it going? It says, why can't you read some of the comments? They're all written down. Yep. I did a video on the other channel. Maybe you just joined me tonight, but on my other channel, it's called Patriot EDU. I did a video thoroughly explaining it. If you're not familiar with YouTube's new policies, I put that video out for information, and other people have great, videos about it too. Amber says, I enjoy this channel. It encourages me. A lot of my family asked why on earth I wanted a gun now. I said, because I believe in exercising my rights, and I will be one more to make taking it away harder. And that is awesome to hear. That is awesome. Well, I'm glad you like the channel. I always say this, and it's true. The chat's a lot better than what I do, but that's cool. That's why I like to do this, because the chat gets going. I like to spend a few minutes with you guys at the end, and that's what I'm doing right now. Although it's almost my bedtime. So I'm going to have to... I need my beauty sleep. You know what I'm saying? Rick Nieper, are you going to the Capitol tomorrow? I think Jane sent me something about that. Maybe. Actually, I was going to call you back earlier today when you called me, but I had two, not one, but two emergency service calls for the same customer, and they were both the highest priority ever. Maybe someday I'll be a professional YouTuber. Yeah, right. But until then, I cut grass and do some other outdoor services and indoor services. So I was over there today working for a longtime customer of mine. Zach says, that's awesome. Yes. Oh, yeah. YouTube's policy. Delete conservative channels. I mean, that's the essence of it, Mike. Mike Skidmore. That is actually the essence of it. James Kawasaki. That's a good quote. You actually had a good comment earlier that I was trying to find, but it skipped through. He said, those who would trade essential liberties for a little bit of security will get or deserve neither. Yep. Yep. Because the whole little bit of security, that's the fallacy. And as soon as you give up your liberty, you don't get it back. They never want to give it back. And if they do, you've got to fight really, really hard. Joe Seha. I'm going to say that's how it's. How do I pronounce your name? I know who you are. You leave lots of comments. Sometimes I'm like Joe Seja. I'm going to say it's Joe Seha today. Maybe. How you doing, man? HX Morg. Edward Snowden knows the deep state very well, and I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. I have no doubt on that. I am not on Rumble, Delta Blues, and here's why. I created an account, I uploaded a video to them, and then another video played instead. I'm having a hard time. I am on Odyssey, and I like the Odyssey, the GUI, the way it works. It's all easy to use. It automatically uploads for me, which I like. But it seems like Rumble is taking over as the larger of the alternate places. I'm trying, man. If somebody's a Rumble guru and can help me, I guess send me an email. But I have an account. Another YouTuber that I'm friends with created an account on there and was having problems with it too. So I don't know. I don't know if there's just too much traffic going to Rumble and it's messing with it right now. I just don't know. But I'm not having good luck with it, just to be quite honest with you. Logistical luck. I'll upload something and it'll sit there and take forever. And then when it's up there, it's not the right video. The one said error, and they're the same exact clones of my YouTube videos. I don't know. I just wanted to give you a long answer because so many people are asking me about it. I'm all about it. I'm trying, just not having luck right now. I can't believe it, guys. I've been on here for 2 hours. It felt like it was 15, 20 minutes, but I think I've been on here long enough. So I'm just going to say bye to a couple more people, and I'm going to get out of here. John Williams, how you doing, buddy? As long as there are machine shops and men that know how to use them, things can be done. I agree, man. And I hope you're feeling good, and I hope you're well, buddy. A lot of you guys have been around here a long time, and I appreciate it. I've seen some of you guys on here for the last couple of years, it seems like. I know why you guys come back, because the chat's so good. That's why I'm looking here. I don't know. That's a question. That's a good question. If you were a felon, would you still carry a firearm? That is a good question to ask. Now, we're on YouTube right now, but you guys can answer or keep it to yourself, whatever your answer is to that. But it is an interesting question. A lot of you guys get on Rumble, get on Rumble. I have a Rumble account, guys. I'm having a hard time. Money Mar, he says, come on, man, hang out a little while longer. I don't know, Susan. I used to buy her flowers, even though I didn't like her. Now, I wouldn't go as far as Eric Swallowswell and sleep with an espionage spy. Never none of that. My morals wouldn't let me do it, but I did used to buy her flowers. And I haven't the last couple weeks. I'm not too happy with Susan Wiki right now. Not too happy at all. So, I don't know. I like to hang out, but then again, I'm not too happy with Susan at the moment. Well, I don't think you guys are either. Someone's going to come in here. Who's Susan? You guys that are veterans on here, let them know. Let the new people know who Susan is. This one person's like, dude, what's up with that? Who's this Susan? Do you guys have a thing? I'm like, nah, trust me, we don't. Susan's just Susan, sometimes called Susan Wiki. We come for the Aunt Jemima and the Lamy trauma. What's happening, A-dubs? And we stay for the chat, and I agree. I agree. You know, this channel is never going to be a big channel, but you know what? It did start to grow at a certain point when my friend Rachel was on here doing a couple streams with me. And come to think of it, I think I'd like to do one with her again soon. But I digress. Stuff happened, whatever. I ended up with the llama. It's not technically mine, but possession's 9/10 of the law, right? And I've noticed as soon as he showed up, like A-Dub said, more and more people have been kind of wandering into these streams. So I think there might be a little something to that. And then Pillbox Bunker, who's my friend, and he's my good friend, gave him his half-track tank. Do you guys want to hang out for 5 more minutes? If you do, I actually have something cool to show you. All right, 5 more minutes, guys. I won't charge you extra, I promise. And if you don't like it, I'll give you a full refund. Susan WikiWiki said the check's in the mail. So check this out. John Bingham, no problem, man. Says thanks for your leadership and thoughts on 2A and thoughts. 2A EDU, keep it going with your educating of we the people. Well, thank you. And I'm trying to hash through all this bull crap because I study this stuff, but I'm just like a regular person too. So I have a hard time, and maybe together we'll all figure it out. Even though I think we already know what the answer is. Shall not be infringed means only one thing, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Check it out. Lamy just got a new toy. I know some of you guys like motorcycles. From Pillbox Bunker, again. You know, I often say this. This channel has no sponsors. And it doesn't, but it kind of does. Pillbox Bunker, who's just a regular old dude in the chat here, is the official sponsor of all motorcade and ordnance and small arms. Ma Deuce right there for Lamy. There's a Ma Deuce, you know, duh. You think I'd have a llama hanging out with me that wasn't well armed? I don't think so. Check it out. Good night, Jane. Huh? That is actually pretty cool. Are you still in here, Pillbox? My luck, he went to bed. Whatever. I got his phone number. I'll call him if not. Harley Davidson. I think it's pretty cool. Let me get it out of here. Let's see if Lamy likes it. And then we get to go to bed. Thank you, Pillbox. That is pretty cool, actually. These little things are realistic. You guys ever notice that? For you Harley buffs, what's the deal for this? What's the vintage? Someone's gonna say, I'm gonna say it's a flathead. Someone else is gonna say it's a knucklehead. Then someone's gonna say it's a shovel head. I don't know. I don't have enough money to collect Harleys. I'm into firearms. Right? Gary Wisner, come on up to Michigan. He's a real dude. Come up to Michigan, anybody that wants to. Come up here. I'll tell you who you can hang out with, like right off the Rick. We've got Rick Nieper. We've got Jane Locke. We've got Pillbox. And they all literally live like in the same small town just near me here. I mean, Rick's technically, these are all technicalities. We all live within like a certain area, right? I think Lamy's a little big for it, but he can, yeah, that'll work. I think so, actually. Awesome. I'll find a spot for this right next to my books. And Lamy's half track. And this does actually have a little kickstand on it. That'll work. I like that. Cool. Chris Blake, I knew there'd be a person in here. Yeah, man, I'm serious. These people all exist. They're all around here. I don't know. Chris Blake says it's a... Okay, Hemi, for you and me, says I have a 50-year-old boxer with a sidecar. See, you guys are all going over my head. Chris says that's a 45 flathead WL model. Okay. 42 panhead, but I'm not a motorcycle buff. I don't know, but I know it is a thing. What's happening, Cats and Cars Ringtail Gang? How you doing, man? What's up, Mr. C? How you doing? Put the little motorcycle emoji. That's cool. All right, who did I miss in here? I missed somebody. I want to say hi to all of you. RJL says Flathead. How's it going? Old Coasty, how you doing, Old Coasty? When did you sneak in here? 45 Flathead, model WLA. Well, thank you, guys. Mateo says Flathead. I don't know. Susan. He needs to know who Susan is. Rick Deeper, love the llama Christmas shirt. Hold on, guys. Hold on. You guys sent me the coolest stuff. A viewer sent me this. I have it right over here. Because I'm saving it for a special stream I'm doing. Look at that. Isn't that pretty cool? Rick saw this when he was over here last week. I like it. Well, I had fun hanging out with you guys. I really did. Things kind of suck right now. I get it. But hey, I'll see you guys in the comments on my videos throughout the week. I have more videos planned on both channels. And Lord willing and the creek don't rise, I'll be back here next Friday, 9:30 Eastern. So I appreciate it, guys. You guys are fun. I'll definitely check up on all your comments later. If I missed you, wasn't on purpose. You guys have got me outnumbered. What can I say? All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching.